new adults. And I said there's only one generation a year. So this ties to the cicadas. We're going to have an overabundance of cicadas, and that goes to say we're probably going to have an overabundance of these cicada killer wasps. They can be confused with other wasps that people are thinking about, the murder wasp and the European hornet, if people aren't watching the colors very well, because it's a very large wasp. So I hadn't intended to talk about that, but it ties into the topic of today, which is wasps. Today, I'm going to talk about two common wasps and their nests with the hope that we will look forward to seeing these for their biological control, and that we will understand when we need to remove these from the nature. From our area. Before I get started, I want to talk about the wasp life cycle. This is a complete cycle. You have the fertile female will lay eggs. The eggs will turn into larvae that will feed on whatever food the worker wasps have provided to them. They will form a pupa, and then the adult will merge in about 3 weeks from the time the egg was laid. So let's talk a little bit about the nests. All of these wasps have a very common or similar program where the fertile queen in hibernation will emerge in the springtime. She will build a small nest into which she lays a few eggs. Worker wasps emerge from these eggs, and they then start to tend the nest and build the nest. Meanwhile, the queen defaults back to just laying eggs, and that goes on all summer. When they're preparing for winter, the queen lays 2 sets of eggs. The first set, when they fertilize, will become potential queens, and the second set are unfertilized, and they will become fertile males. After the mating dance, the fertilized females will hibernate, and the entire nest, including those newly emerged males, will cease. They will no longer be there. So the nests are a one-time use, and in the fall, they all go away. There are 2 basic types of wasps. Solitary wasps, which are our cicada killer wasp is like. It has a small nest. It's a single female wasp tending the nest. So if that female is killed, the nest will stop. They rarely sting because they're so occupied on providing food for their children, if you think of it in human terms, and they feed on spiders, crickets, cicadas, caterpillars, and all kinds of insects. The examples would include a mud dauber, a digger, a scolded wasp, and a parasitic wasp. And we'll see some of these in the environment. Today, I'm going to focus on the social wasps because people get most afraid of those. If they're large wasps, it's usually a single queen and hundreds of workers. They will sting, the workers and the females will sting to defend the nest. So that becomes important in terms of where the nests are allowed to stay and where you want to remove them. The workers will feed on caterpillars and soft-bodied insects and pierce-sucking insects to feed to their larvae. They themselves mostly have nectar. There are some exceptions, but mostly they do nectar. The outlier to all this, these social wasps that are beneficial, is the European hornet that chews on woody shrubs and trees and in a girdling band around the tree, and it will eventually kill the tree. So the first wasp I'm going to focus on is the bald-faced hornet. This is a fairly middle-sized wasp. about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch to 1 inch. The fertile female is the larger. The workers are the smaller size. It's relatively hairless, as you can see from this picture, and while they're not great pollinators, they still do pollinate some. They have white or pale yellow marks on their head and abdomen, and they feed on flies. They love flies. All those stinging flies that we just can't stand, the horse flies and the deer flies, these guys are our friends. They go after those preferentially. They also like caterpillars, garden pests, and they like yellow jackets. They generally ignore human activity unless they're provoked. And what does provoked mean? Provoked means if you come and bump their nests, accidentally or intentionally, they take it as a personal threat and will swarm. Their whole purpose is to not only feed the developing hornets, but also to defend the nest. And their sting is very painful. So we have their nests themselves, as I mentioned earlier, the queen starts the nest with woody materials. The materials are woody and they are chewed and mixed with saliva. And they are formed in these thin paper structures. There are multiple layers of these hexagonal combs, and we're going to look inside this nest. Because air circulation is so important in a large social nest like this for the health of all the wasps that are in there, they have a marvelous engineering system of venting these nests. And we'll take a look at some of the venting mechanisms that they use. These nests are one-time use. They're vacated in the fall at the first frost. So if you have a nest like this, you can safely remove it in the fall. And if it's in a place where people aren't going to be exposed, not going to bump into it, or where you can cordon off people, it's okay to leave a big nest like this. So here's a bald-faced hornet nest. This is my nest from my dogwood tree. You can see it was attached to the tree with these branches. We're going to take a trip inside it. So we're going to the underneath of the nest where you can see the large hole that serves as the bottom entrance point for the workers. And this is where the bottom ventilation comes in, as well as hornet access. Where you come up to the top and you can see the multi-cell chamber where the egg and the larva and the pupa will be. And you can also see the air vents on the top. That top 2 layers is air vents. So the air comes through the bottom and up through the top, giving it good circulation for the health of the nest. The second wasp I wanted to focus on today is the paper wasp, another social wasp, one that we see a lot. This is also about the same size and often confused with the yellow jacket. It has a reddish orange to dark brown. The main thing that you can tell with this flying is that it flies with its legs hanging down. So if you see a hornet or a wasp flying with its legs down, chances are it's a paper wasp. This wasp feeds on flower nectar, garden pests, especially soft-bodied caterpillars that are eating our tomatoes and our vegetables. Okay. Their nest construction is a similar paper-like material, except it's an umbrella-like upside-down nest that you can see in this little image in the middle, where it has a single filament that the umbrella-like nest hangs down. There's a single layer of honeycomb cells. It's usually protected under an eave. They want to be outside of the weather. They don't want to have a lot of rain coming in. And again, like other wasps, it's a one-time use. It'll be abandoned in the fall. And so if you see this growing up in an eave, you can safely say, if people can stay away from it, you don't need to bash it down. If it's by the front door, that's a different issue. And you'll probably want to mediate and take it away. So here's the paper wasp nest. This is the top. You can see in the middle, there's like a little stalk. Here's the cells into which she plants the egg and in which the larva and the pupa grow. So around nests, we humans, especially people who are not familiar with these beneficial insects, we sometimes go, oh, a bug, kill it. But actually, these are really beneficial insects. They are nature's pest control. And they do the job that help us in the vegetable garden and around our ornamentals and in our trees. If we avoid threatening behavior to nests, leave the nests alone, stay 3 feet away, don't go bashing the nest, and if they're in a place where humans can safely avoid them, they can remain where they are. If we start to see hornets come to us, we should stay calm. Hard to do when you see things come. Cover your face, walk quietly backwards, move away. Don't run away, because if you run away, they're likely to think you had something up and will continue to swarm after you. Like all of wasps, the first frost, they're gone. The beneficial thing is that they're unlikely to nest in the same spot again. So even though the fertile female goes into the ground or under a rock and hibernates for the winter, it's unlikely that she will come back to the same spot. After the frost, you can safely remove the nest. And with that, I'll take questions.